This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we are starting now. Chaturmukha Samarambham Vagbhadacharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryandam Vande Guru Paramparam Ragadirogan Sadadanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasudan Asheshan Aulsukya Moha Aradidan Jakhana Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. Today we will start our session with the sloka Gariyaso Bhaved Leenad Amadeva Vilambika Kabhavada Anubadha Amalinga Talsama Sadhana. Gariyaso Bhaved Leenad Amadeva Vilambika Kabhavada Anubadha Amalinga Kabhavada Amalinga Talsama Sadhana. So here we explain another Ajirnajanya Vikara or Ajirnaja Vikara called Vilambika. Vilambika. So the word itself shows the Vilambam, the delayed or slow presentation or manifestation. So this is a slow manifesting or delayed manifesting or late manifesting type of Ajirna Vikara. This word Vilambika can be seen discussed with different shades of meaning by various authors. Vilambika, the name itself is indicative of the slow nature, as I told earlier. The text tells us it in such a way. Gariyasaha Leenad Amad Eva Kabhavadanubadha Amalinga Talsamasadhana Vilambika Bhaved. Gariyasaha Leenad Amad Kabhavadanubadha Amalinga Talsamasadhana Vilambika Bhaved. The word Gariyasaha shows the high quantum or the bulk of ama. Here we find the ama used in two different lines. First line there is Amad Eva Vilambika, and in the second line we find Amalinga. So two different places in which the word ama is used. Amad Panjami. So from, caused by ama. So here the ama, in our previous session we saw the word ama explained in a different context. Ajirnam cha kabhad amam. So when we continue from those lines, obviously it makes a feeling that the same amam is referred here. But that need not necessarily indicate that kabhaja ajirnam cha kabhadama. But it will be, or it shall be, indicative of ajirnam in general sense. Ajirnam in general sense. So the first point here is Gariyasaha, that is Vilambika is having a huge collection, a huge quantity of ajirna. When we say that, okay, amam is ajirnam and its quantity is prabodham, gariyasaha amadu. So from that ama vilambika manifests, or the vilambika is a result of that ama, or as I told, ajirnam in general. Sometimes in the literature we can see karanam reflecting the karya. Karanam reflecting the karya. Rogastu dosha vaishamyam. Rogastu dosha vaishamyam. So dosha vaishamyam, generally the word meaning is roga hatu dosha vaishamyam. So dosha vaishamyam is called rogam. Actually it is the rogam is the result or effect of the cause dosha vaishamyam. So there, that cause is indicative of the effect, or the karanam is indicative of the karya. While such a situation comes in the text, generally it is explained using a tantra yukti. I think it is hetvartham, something like that. I think it is hetvartham. So here the ajirnam or amam, which is explained here, can be the cause also, need not be the effect, can be the karanam, not the karyam. Karyam may be something else. Amad. So here the karyam is the vidagdha dushta annarasam, which is not properly formed. Vidagdha dushta annarasam. That is a product of the ajirna. Karyam. Ajirnam is the karanam and that dushta annarasam is the karyam. So here it can be the karyam which is originally represented by or reflected by the karana. I hope you understand. I'm not complicating the stuff. So in the background of Vilambika, there is a huge bulk of amajanya or ajirnajanya vidagdha dushta annarasam accumulated over a period of time. Accumulated over a period of time. So there is a question, how can this happen? Two points we have to keep in our minds. Number one, Hemadri observes and documents one point at this commentary. Punah punarulpadaha dushta bubhukshayam bhojanad. So that punah punarulpadam, that is repeated generation of this ajirnajanya ama annarasam. How does it happen? Dushta bubhukshayam bhojanad. Dushta bubhukshayam bhojanad. Bubhuksha. Bubhuksha is the ichha to eat. Bubhuksha. Maybe the hunger and appetite together. But here it is not the Shuddha Bubhuksha. It is Dushta Bubhuksha. Dushta Bubhuksha. So Dushta Bubhukshayam Bhojanad, there is a possibility of Punah Punarulpadaha of this Vidagdha Annarasam. Then there is a question, what is the Dushta Bubhuksha? In the chapter Matrashitaya in Ashtanga Sangraham, you can find what is meant by Dushta Bubhuksha. Hemadri actually takes that concept, borrows that concept from Ashtanga Sangraham. In Sangraham we find Doshobanadham yadi leenamannam pittolbanasya avrunuyanna vanhim jayeda dushtatu tado bubhukshaya mandabuddhin vishavannihanti. Such an observation Ashtanga Sangraha Vagbhada has made. He documents it. Doshobanadham yadi leenam annam pittolbanasya. So the entire course of this event happens with the pittolbanasya. Somebody who is having a predominance of pitta, maybe vigrita pitta only. Pittolbanasya doshobanadham leenam annam. Doshobanadham leenam annam. Doshobanadham. Doshobanadham means something which is stuck and caught in custody, maybe by dosha. That is doshobanadham. Actually, pittolbanasya, pittolbanada is mentioned separately. So here the doshobanadhada could be more specific to kabha and vada. So doshobanadham leenam annam. Doshobanadham. It is something like ruddham. Vada shleshma ruddham. Leenam. Koshta egadeshe leenam. Something which has stuck in the Koshta Egadesham, some area of the Koshtam. Here, more precisely, maybe the Amashayam. And because of that, clutches of the Vada and the Kabha, Avrunuyanna Vanhim Jayeta Dushtatu Tado Bubhuksha. If that Leenam Annam fails to encounter, meet with Vanhi. So the mechanism fails. There is food in the Koshtam, in the Amashe. But it is some way or the other afflicted by the Vada and the Shleshma, and it fails to encounter with the Pajakapitta. And as a result, Pajakapittam does not understand that there is fuel ready for him. So what happens? Because of that failure, Pajakapittam creates a feeling of bubhuksha. Instead of, or in spite of the fact that there is a reserve stock of annam in the Amashayam. So that bubhuksha is known as dushta bubhuksha. So that dushta bubhuksha forces or gives a wrong signal to the individual that he or she is hungry. And obviously the person eats. But there is already unprocessed annam in the koshta. This creates a loop of ajirna or alpajirna, apakwa changes in the pajanasthana, and this sort of accumulation, generation and accumulation of dushta annarasa can happen. So Hemadri observes that the dushta bubhuksha, as explained by Ashtanga Sangraha, could be one reason for this sort of punarutpada of lina annarasam or ajirnam in the system. This is one point. Second, leenad, that is another observation. Leenad. So leenad means leenam. The word leenam also we can see explained differently in different contexts. It is explained because always any padam gets its meaning based on the context. Leenam, any word, leenam also follows the same rule. Here, what is the meaning of leenam? If we go through the commentaries, we can find that Aruna Datta comments, explains. Leenad means atyartham srodasu slishtatvad. Leenad means atyartham srodasu slishtatvad. That means the annarasam, that means that dushta puna ulpanna annarasam is attached, adhered to the different srodasas connected to its seat. Obviously, predominantly the rasavaha srodas, very strongly. The attachment is very strong. The adherence is very deep. So what happens? Even if time is given, kalam, it is not getting, because dushta bubhuksha forces the individual to take food again and again. Even if time is given, because of the leena avastha, what happens? The expected pajanam is not happening. Expected pajanam is not happening. So again, it is a product of ajirnam, as we mentioned earlier, repeatedly mentioning in different contexts. And Agni is the culprit here. Agni sometimes a villain or a victim. Sometimes it is weak by some or the other reason, and fails to deliver properly. Sometimes the influence of the factors like dushta bubhuksha or other ashana doshas, muktasyo bhojanam, akala bhojanam, sangirna bhojanam, all these things which we discussed in the beginning of this chapter. So what we have to assimilate at this point is that there is a problem with the Agni, Pittam. There is a problem with the Pittam. It is not Pakvam, but it is Vidagdham. Annarasam is Vidagdham and Dushtam. And what happens? It becomes Kabhavada Anubadha. Kabhavada Anubadha. So already there is a problem with the Agni and Pittam, and it is Vidagdham, to which Kabhavada Anubandham happens. Kabhavada Anubandham. So it is Leena prabhuda dushta ajirna annarasam, and kabha and vada become anubaddham, secondarily attached or added on to make the matters worse. And amalinga, again, as I mentioned earlier, it need not be. Of course, there are commentaries like Arunadatta makes yatha shobhokshigandayoho sadyo bhukta ivodgara prasegoklesha gauravam, as we have seen in the case of kabhada ajirnam cha kabhadamam. That need not be the case always. Here we have got anubaddham, and so they are anubandham. There is anubandham, and then obviously there will be anubandhi. So anubandhi here is Agni Pittam, and anubandham is Kabhavadam. Only there is anubandhi, there is relevance of anubandham. So practically it can be a Sannipadavastha. It can be a Sannipadavastha with the different types of predominance. Sometimes it may be Kabha predominant, sometimes it may be Vada predominant, sometimes it may be Pitta predominant. That is one way of explaining it. Of course, you may not see these sort of explanations in all the Vyakhyanas. I do agree with it. And what is next? Tal sama sadhana. Sadhana, sadhanam chigilsitam, chigilsa. Tal samasadhana. So here it is amalinga means ajirna linga. So you can expect vadigajirna linga, paitigajirna linga, or kabhajajirna linga. Need not be limited to ajirnam cha kabhadamam tatra shobhokshigandayo, etc., etc. But it can be amalinga or Vishtabdhalinga or Vidagdhalinga according to the predominance. According to the predominance. Tal samasadhana. Accordingly, the line of management also should change. So if it is just similar to the dosha predominance and the corresponding ajirna, why should we consider this vilambika separately? That is the question. Why should we consider? Because it is tal samasadhana and tal samalinga. So what is the sense behind considering Vilambika as a separate entity? That question is many a times not discussed directly, but coming to the explanations, again, Hemadri makes one observation. Of course, it may be his gut feeling. He might have thought of this particular question. Why should we consider it as a different factor? The point is, as we mentioned earlier, the main vikaras from where we started, that means Vishuchika, Alasakam, Dandagalasagam, and Ama Visham. They are very fast, quick manifesting conditions and toxic by nature, Savisham by nature. Then the other conditions what we were discussing, that means Amam, Vidagdham and Vishtabdham. They are some sort of a subacute presentations, not so fast, not so late, sometime in somewhere in between. Whereas Vilambika is so delayed in its presentation, so delayed. Tad anubandhena dirghakala vilambanad vilambika ityuchyate. Dirghakala vilambanad vilambika. So it is a delayed, so delayed, slow manifestation. That is the difference here. And what is the advantage and disadvantage of this vilambika, that slow manifestation? Vilambanad vilambika. The problem is the person who is going through this samprapti of Vilambika need not understand that he or she is passing through a samprapti, or a samprapti is passing through him or her, because it is very slow. There are certain very evident clinical conditions, no? They are notorious for their slowness. Like, see, as far as Shalakirandra is concerned, there is a condition called this open angle glaucoma. Open angle glaucoma is a thief of vision, a silent thief. The sufferer will not understand that his vision is deteriorating, and by the time he or she identifies that the things are happened, most of the vision will have lost, because it is a vilambika. I don't mean that it is something related with the Matrashitaya vilambika. By nature, vilambanad vilambika. It is a vilambika that way. There are many such conditions. Something which we can connect directly with our present context is problems with the abdominal viscera, many times connected to the liver. There are many conditions in the liver which are vilambika by nature. We will not understand that something is going on. We will not understand that something is killing. We are talking, we are moving, we are running, we are leading a show, many things. But deep inside, you will be dying because of your deteriorating liver. Because it is vilambika by nature. So that is the biggest disadvantage. And number two, as the course of progression is very slow and silent, the reach can be very deep, gambhiram, by the time it presents, making the entire picture tough to handle and irreversible most of the time. So if we go through the term vilambika in different contexts, in different textbooks, we can find this vilambika explained in many other clinical situations, or representing many different clinical situations. Hemadri has tried to compile them in his commentary. It is very interesting. This Arunadatta many a times is the most celebrated commentator of Ashtanga Hridaya, because of his maybe the grammatical correctness and yukti related to the way in which he draws meaning from words. True, it is unquestionable that his command in that aspect is unquestionable. But Hemadri seems to be a more practical Vaidya. He may not be much concerned about this sort of Vyakaranam, then the sort of etymology and everything related to the words used and everything. But he makes it a point that the ideas conveyed should be practical. We can find many examples for that. So here we find Hemadri compiling almost all possible shades of meaning given by different acharyas of different schools and different times. And sometimes he even negates certain acharyas. Like, see, at one point he is saying, Yaduktam jajjadena iyam vilambiga tandrandare dandalasaka sapnaya ukta idi tadasat. It is not true. In some textbooks, we may find that this vilambiga is nothing but dandagalasakam. Why such an opinion came? Because in dandagalasakam also we saw that the quick spread of doshas, ama, visha happens through the Rasavahasrodas, and it spreads in the Tiryagadi, and there is Dandavat Stambhayandi. True. But here he says that Tadasad because Bhedadi Vajana Paryalochanaya Vilambigaya Vidagdhamulatvad Dandagalasagasya Alasaga Bhedatvena Vishtabdhamulatvad. So he is so critical that way. Even the finer aspect of observation required as far as a clinician is concerned, as far as a Vyavaharika Vaidya is concerned, that we can find many times in the commentary of Hemant. Similarly, the elaborate discussions that we find in Sushruta Samhita about the Vilambika and the related conditions, everything is combined by Hemadri. Those who are interested in getting such finer aspects should definitely explore the commentary of Hemadri, and also should try to see the original texts. Many times they are not available anymore, but still there are many texts which are available. So definitely we should explore such original sources of information shared by Hemadri. So Gariyaso Bhaved Leenad Amadeva Vilambiga Kabhavadanubadha Amalinga Tal Samasadhana. And once again, Hemadri, as I told earlier, is not comfortable with the question that why should we refer Vilambika separately if it is nothing but Kabhavadanubadha Amalinga Tal Samasadhana. So here Hemadri makes another observation. Iyam cha Vilambika Charagacharyena Anya Vishasapnyaya Ukta. Iyam cha Vilambika Charagacharyena Anya Vishasapnyaya Ukta. That to a clinician gives a better insight. What is the Annavisha Sapna? Annavisha explained by Charaka Samhita. I think in our overall sessions, we might have gone through that particular portion minimum 10 times. Because it is so important. There is a saying called Udaram Vyadhi Mandiram. Udaram Vyadhi Mandiram. Vyadhi Mandiram. Mandiram is the temple. Udaram. Udaram. So Vyadhi Mandiram is the temple of Vyadhi, temple of ailments. Udaram is the temple of ailments. Udaram is the sanctum sanctorum of all sorts of ailments. So that statement is well substantiated by the explanation given by this Agni Dushti Karanas and its consequences in the Grahani Chikilsidam by Acharya Charaka. Again, I am reading because certain points may require n number of repetitions so as to get into the minds of the learner. What is that portion? Charaka Samhita Chikilsasthanam, chapter 15. Abhojanad ajirnadi bhojanad vishamashanad asatmya guru shida adiruksha sandushta bhojanad. See, these points are to be connected with whatever we have seen, that dushta bubhuksha, everything. Then virega vamanasneha vibhramad vyadhikarshanad deshakalartu vaishamyad veganam cha vidharanad dushyatyagni sadushtaha annam na tat pachati laghu api. Tad dushtaha annam laghu api annam na pachati. What happens instead? Abachyamanam shuktatvam yatyannam vishadam chatad tasya lingam ajirnasya vishtambha. We should recollect, we should by heart, we should understand tasya lingam ajirnasya. Again, this Agni Dushti and its resulting anna ajirna and the resultant vikaras are to be understood as all late manifestations, delayed manifestations, vilambanad vilambika. That way, this is the seed of vilambika. This is the seed of vilambika. Sadushtaha annam natat pachadi leghvavi apachyamanam suktatvam yatyannam vishadam chatad tasya lingam ajirnasya. This ajirna lingam can be seen on punaha punaha that ulpadaha of dushtarasa and its leena avastha in the system, in the srotas. Leenam, we already saw that leenam atyartha srodasu shlishtam. So when there is slow, silent, deep accumulation, then what are the lakshanas? Vishtambha sadanam klamaha shiroruk shobha murchascha bhrama prishtakadigraha jrumbhangamardastrushnaja jwara chardi pravahanam arojaga avipagaucha ghoramanna vishamcha tad pittena saha samsrishtam daha trishna mughamayan janayatyamla pittam cha pittajamschaparan gadan yakshmapina samehadin kabhajan kabhasangadam karodi vada samsrishtam vadajamschamayan bahun mutrarogamscha mutrastham kukshiroganscha gridgadam rasadibhischa samsrishtam kuryadrogan rasadijan. Rasadibhischa samsrishtam kuryadrogan rasadijan. So there can be slow, silent, deep, delayed manifestations based on different dhadus, different gambhirata. Sometimes it may start as milder versions in the utthana avastha, but later penetrates into the deeper srotas, causing delayed, strong, silent, and fatal manifestations in the dhadus. According to the presentation, I think sometimes the reporting departments may change. Sometimes it may go to a specialty center, specialty department. Sometimes it may be reported to a super specialty center, and sometimes to a hyper specialty center. But do not forget that Udaram Vyadhi Mandiram. Udaram Vyadhi Mandiram. Udaram is the sanctum sanctorum of the goddess of ailments. So this understanding is so unique to Ayurveda. At one point of time, in the course of history, there was an idea called gastricism. And that idea was actually pushed away, pushed aside, calling it as some sort of a belief, a cult, that every disease has got some connection with the gastrum, that means the stomach. And it was discarded. That idea, entire idea was discarded. That is the interesting part. In most of the traditional systems, these ideas were there, but they got sidelined or marginalized or sometimes discarded by the influence of the Western medicine, and it was considered as some sort of a andhavishwasam, a false belief, a blind belief that every disease has got its root in the stomach. But Ayurveda actually stuck on to that idea. Chamapragobau doshanam sarvesham agnihedugau. Esha saras chigilsaya yad agnehe paridakshanam. Jadharo bhagavan agni kaya ityabidhiyade yastam chigilset sidandam savai kaya chigilsakaha. Many things. Many things we can find in our literature. So that idea is going to be the point around which I think the entire concept of Ayurvedic treatment is spinning. So that idea, sometimes in the modern times, may be included in different squares, different tables, like, okay, this is some sort of a degenerative disease, this is an inflammatory disease, this is an autoimmune disease. But interestingly, a Vaidya obviously will succeed in finding the connection between the status of the Agni and the manifestation of that particular disease. Of course, it is a different question whether identifying this connection will empower the Vaidya to treat all cases. Yes, he can treat all cases. Can he cure all diseases? It's a different question. It is based on the status at which the intervention is made, the status of the samprapti at which the intervention is made. Sometimes a disease might have gone through a line of separation between the sadhyavastha and the asadhyavastha. So if it has already crossed the limits of the sadhyada and entered the asadhyada, obviously you need not be able to cure it. But that doesn't mean that there is no treatment. There is no treatment. So don't believe the sort of propaganda that this disease has no treatment. It has treatment. And many times, if you succeed in taking a grip of Agni back on the body and reclaiming the capacity of the ojas to sustain, I think wonders may happen. Kalasya kudilo gadihi. Who knows what is the course of action of Kala? Kala is the time. Kala is also a synonym of the Yama. So who knows how the Yama is going to behave? So all these things, all these ideas can be conceived from these two lines. Gariyaso bhaved leenad amadeva vilambika kabhavadanubadha amalinga talsama sadhana. Fine. Then coming to the next line, we will read it anyway. I do not know whether we will be able to explain it this time. Ashraddha hridvyatha शुद्धेप्युद्गारे रसशेषतः शयीद किंचिदेवात्र सर्वश्चानाशितो दिवा स्वप्यादजीर्णी संजात बुभुक्षोद्यान्मितं लघु. So we find in the first line ashraddha hridvyatha shuddhepyudgare rasasheshatah. Rasashesham. That is an interesting term. Rasashesham. What does it mean? Rasashesham means shesham. It means left behind, left over. What is left over? Rasam is left over. What is the meaning? I hope you may be remembering one discussion we had in the beginning of Matrashitaya, where I was mentioning that, okay, during the Pajana Prakriya, in the Amashayam certain things are happening. Madhuri Bhudam, Dheni Bhudam. Then Pachyamana Avastha, Amli Bhudam, Vidagdham. Then Pakwa Avastha. So at that point, considering the functions of Agni along with Samanavayu, with the structural peculiarity of the Grahani, Pajatyannam Vibhajade Sarakitto Prathak Annam Grinhadi Pajati Vivejayadi Munjati. Respectively, Pajaka Vittam and Samanavayu. Regarding Grahani, so Annasya Grahanad Grahani Mata. Samano Divayatyagnim Agnehe Sandhukshavo hi saha. I am taking these points from different contexts. So, after the second, then the third avastha pagam, Kadu, Ushnam, Vayu, and separation of the Saram and Pittam. Saram is taken back to the Amashayam. So, or Saram is not pushed down to the Pakwashayam, only the Kittam is, or it is together pushed down, but Saram is retained back to the Amashayam, and the Kittam is pushed further down to the Purishavaha Srotas. So from that Amashayam, this Annarasam is again distributed through the Rasavaha Srotas, Vyanena Rasadhadurhi. And at one point that process should be completed. That means there is no Rasa in the Amashaya. So there are different possibilities. There is Ahara in the Amashaya. Then that is over. There is no Ahara in the Amashaya, but Ahara in the Pachyamanashaya. Then at one point there is nothing in the Amashaya, nothing in the Pachyamanashaya, but things are in Pakwashaya. Then there is Rasa in Amashaya, and whatever was there in the Pakwashaya is pushed down to the Purishavaha Srotas. Then Vyanena Rasadhadurhi, etc., etc., and Rasa is taken from the Amashaya. There is nothing in the Amashaya. So Pajaka Vitta is back in Kosta, Kledaka Kabha is back in Kosta, Samanavayu back in the Kosta. And Rasa is taken away to the Hridaya or Yagrat or Pliha or whichever destination is supposed to take. So the system is getting ready again. So when we go through, one of the points that we will see later in this chapter, the last one, prasrishte vinmutre hridi suvimale doshe swapathage. Doshe swapathage means Kledakagabha in position, Pachakavitta in position, Samanavayu in position. There are no leftovers. Rasa is taken away. Vyana is in its position. Doshe swapathage. And again, Jirna ahara lakshanam. Jirna ahara lakshanam. Not complete digestion or process is over, but ahara jirna has attained. What is that lakshana? Udgara shuddhir ulsahaha वेगोत्सर्गो यथोचितः लघुदाक्षुप्पिपासा च जीर्णाहारस्य लक्षणम्. So udgara shuddhi ulsahaha. So when that aharam is jirnam but rasam is not yet fully assimilated, this udgara shuddhir and ulsaha need not happen. That is what we find here. Ashraddha, hridvyatha, shuddhe pyudgare. Shuddhe udgare api, there are ashraddha and hridvyatha. Ashraddha, anannabhilashaha. Hridvyatha, some sort of a discomfort. Vyatha, in the hriddesham. So that condition should be identified. That means despite the presence of udgara shuddhi, that ulsaham and lekhuta is not happening. Then it should be assumed that the rasa is not taken into the system fully. That condition is known as rasashesham. Rasashesham. This can happen whenever you do not provide the body with a sufficient time. The body with a sufficient time. So when you go for a dinner very late and early morning, pack up yourself for the next day's affairs, maybe in your clinic, in your office, or whatever it is, this ashraddha, hridyadha, shuddhe pyudgare happens, and that is rasashesha jirna. And this can be one way of that punah punaha ulpadam of dushtarasam. And later vilambika. Later vilambika. And this rasashesha jirnam can be the best seed for many of the autoimmune diseases. I do not know whether you are familiar with, but if you observe silently but seriously, you can find that autoimmune diseases are increasing in school-going children and adolescents because of, according to my viewpoint, vilambika precipitated by rasashesha jirna. Untimely food timings, evening back from school, hungry or craving meal, snacks, tea, milk, then no hunger, appetite, dinner late, early morning, go out for the tuition or whatever it is. I'm saying about the pre-COVID time. Then eating forcefully, even if there is ashraddha, anannabhilasham, or annanabhinandanam. This cycle repeats, and in due course of time, this manifests sometimes as autoimmune thyroiditis, sometimes as something else, even sometimes it can be the sort of presentations named as ITP. Many things, many things. So it can be due to rasasheshajir. And Second line tells the best remedy for that. Shaija kinjideva atra. Kinjideva atra shaida. Lie down for some more time. Sleep if possible. That is the best way for that. Shaida kinjid. That means upekshaiva hi bheshajam. Don't eat, don't rush, take rest. Lie down and relax, so that the body gets sufficient time to assimilate the rasadhatu completely from the system and keep the system open for the next meal. Then prasrishte vinmutre, then that whatever we were seeing about that ahara kalam, hridayam becomes suvimalam. That means that hridvyadha goes. So that hridvyadha is sort of, need not be a physical pain. It can be some sort of a discomfort, which can have mental planes as well. Then doshe sopathage vishuddhe cha udgare. Vishuddhe cha udgare means cha udgare. That is the first thing. Along with the Udgara Shuddhi, when all these things happens, Shuddhupagamane, Vade Anusaradi, Tadhagna Udrikte, Vishadakarane, Dehecha Sulakhau, not even Lakhau, but Sulakhau Prayunjidahar. So that can happen by just lying down for some more time. Shaida Kinjidevatra. So these ideas should be conceived very seriously and put them in our clinical practice. With this, I conclude today's session. I know that we are moving so slowly, very vilambika. Our movement is so vilambika, but I think these are very essential lessons. So forgive me for that, and we will conclude today. Thank you.
Yes, sir. As you said, that we are moving very slowly, Vilambika, but it's the need of ours, sir, I think, because to understand these principles is very, very important in day-to-day practice, sir. And I personally experience all these things in my practice. So I think better than covering the portion, to understand the concept is more important, I think, sir.
Yeah, we will go slowly, I think, because it is very essential.
Okay. Sir, I think means if you are in a rush, we can conclude today, and we will have a question answer session, as you told, in our few sessions. So we can take question answer at that time, or it's your call now.
I think we have a couple of questions today.
Yes, we have, sir.
One is, does Rasashesha always refers to Dushtarasa? Rasashesha need not refer to Dushtarasa always. But if Rasashesha is not attended and addressed, then it is going to be the precursor of Dushtarasa formation. Okay. Then another is, what about Swapathaga dosha? Swapathage, that means Swapatham, on Srotas, on seat. That is what I explained. During the entire exercise of that Ahara Pajanam and its Agiranam, Kledaka Kabha is doing some work in rush, Pachaka Pittam is doing something, Samanava is doing something, Apana is pulling downwards, Vyana is taking transversely outward. So many things were happening. But once all these procedures are over, all these procedural processes are over, doshas will come back to their normal state, relaxing and giving the Agni a chance to review its own status and decide whether we can ask for more. So that state is technically known as doshe swapathage. Right?
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, then we will conclude. Shubharatri to all of you.
Yes, sir. Shubharatri to all. Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.